Hello, and welcome back to season 4 of Visiting Dugout. I am Crystal O'Keefe, doer of all things at Southside Sox. And today I have a new guest who is also a doer of all things Red Sox, it seems like, Owen Brown, on to talk about the Red Sox. Owen, first off, welcome. Second, do you mind just kind of giving a little introduction as to who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure previewing the White Sox season with you before the season started. So very happy to make an appearance here. But yeah, so my name is, for those listening, my name is Owen Brown. I'm currently one of the co-hosts over at Pod by the River, and I'm also a writer for Beyond the Monster, and then also the primary owner of We Talk Sox on Instagram. Recently graduated from the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts up in North Adams, Massachusetts, in Berkshire County. Communications, media studies major, triple concentration in broadcast media, digital media innovation, and journalism. And ultimately, just trying to kind of take it one day at a time and ultimately be able to make baseball and hopefully, ideally the Red Sox my career path. And just so thankful for all the experiences, all the opportunities that I've gotten, I'd say over the past 2 years. And, just, and such as an opportunity like this. And so, just very happy to be here and just ready, excited to talk some socks.
Yeah, you're in such great hands with Ed, who is friend of this pod, always comes on and talks Red Sox with me. But I also have to have my son pick your brain once he's in college. He turned 16. When you're hearing this, he'll be 16. His birthday is tomorrow as we're recording, but he's
Oh,
going in for sports broadcast, and wants to have that as his career path too. So I'm gonna have him pick your brain one of these days. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about what's new with the Red Sox. And I also want to go back, obviously it's July now, so it's been a little while, but the Red Sox also kind of cleaned house. Walk me
yeah,
through
it did.
what went wrong to the point where they just kind of said, hey, everyone's getting fired.
Well, before getting into that, first things first, happy early birthday to your son. Hopefully, hoping 16 is a great year for him. But as far as the season goes, I mean, it was a great opening day win in Cincinnati, but after that, they just could not get it going. It was just inconsistency on the pitching side, especially with Garrett Crochet. Ranger Suarez was still kind of trying to extend his spring training a little bit. Got affected by the WBC. Same thing with Brian Bayo, who is now in AAA because he just has not been able to figure it out. And then even Garrett Crochet too. He was very dominant first start, kind of was up and down the first few, but just absolutely imploded before dealing with both some shoulder and some lat injuries, which has caused him to miss most of the season. Very well, might miss all of the season, but overall, between the pitching, just the lack of offensive production, Jaron Duran, Caleb Durbin, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, pretty much everybody, I would say, not named Willson Contreras, Willie Abreu, and Cedar Rafaela were all struggling on the offensive front. They just could not get any momentum going. But between the lack of pitching, the lack of offense, they were 10 and 17 in the middle of the series with the Baltimore Orioles, and they had their own version of the Red Wedding as Alex Cora, Pete Fatse, Jason Varitek, Tim Hudson, or Kyle Hudson, I should say, all of them getting fired after that date. Replacing all with in-house candidates with Chad Tracy as manager, Chad Epperson at third base coach. So replacing with in-house candidates, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of really kind of set the tempo of what this Red Sox season has been. They have been playing better in the last 11 games, 8-3, going into the series against the White Sox in the last 11 games. But overall, it's kind of just been a lack of up and down. It took them 2 months in between April and June to win their first home series at Fenway Park. I think they recently hit five game win streak, but before that, they had a few 3 game win streaks, but they would kind of follow that up with a couple 5, 6 loss streaks in a row. But just overall, I would say the biggest thing has just been inconsistency. Like there have been times where everything's on full display. You're seeing the pitching clicking, you're seeing the timely hitting, you're seeing great defense out there in the field. But I think just overall, it's just when one area is kind of succeeding, other areas are kind of faltering. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's kind of been the biggest what if of this season, if I had to put a finger on it.
And Yeah, you mentioned you've kind of lost a lot. Garrett Crochet is obviously a huge piece because White Sox fans know how dominant Garrett Crochet is. But you've hit a lot of injuries, and then I want to bring up Willson Contreras again because this is kind of a very weird subject right now. Obviously, he was part of the 7 game suspension with the Nationals player. I don't feel as though Wilson should have had that same suspension. I feel like his should have been way less. I feel like Cade was way more in the wrong than Wilson ever was. And that's probably under appeal right now, right? So we might not even see him in this series. So how has that really impacted what the Red Sox are doing? I mean, because obviously Wilson's another kind of really big piece, a good baseball player. So what's that been like without him?
Yeah, I mean, the most of the success we've had on the offensive end has been because of Willson Contreras. I mean, he's on already, I think he has a 3.6 B WAR at the time recording this. I think a 931 OPS, 20 homers, 59 RBIs. I mean, he's having a career year and especially kind of a late career resurgence. And they definitely would not be where they are without him. But in regards to that, I mean, there's a lot going on. The Red Sox have a lot of Venezuelan players on there, both himself, Wilyer Abreu, Andrew Monasterio, Ranger Suarez, Carlos Narvaez. Like they do have, there's a lot of Venezuelan representation on the Red Sox, and it is a very hard time that Venezuelans are going through right now with the earthquake. Many people have been losing their lives, and it's just been a very, very hard time for members of that community. And so it's definitely as it would be for anyone in that kind of situation. It's definitely affecting him emotionally, and I can totally understand why that would be the case. And anything like that, where Kay Cavalli says something to that magnitude, which was very, very controversial to begin with,
Yeah.
I don't blame Wilson Contreras one bit for getting upset. Obviously, I do wish that there was a better result outside of fighting because, like you said, suspensions are going to play a part, and we might lose him for possibly 7 games as a result of this. But that being said, I do understand why he did it. And I think the reason why it actually got to 7 games wasn't necessarily just because of what happened on field. It was also off the field. He did also threaten a fan, I believe, on social
Mhm.
media to fight him. And that was kind of like what tipped the scale, if you will, got it to 7 games instead of 5. That being said, I think he'll probably end up get a few games reduced from there. I think probably, if I had to guess, maybe 4 or 5 games. Although I'm not sure exactly how that process works, but I would say it's kind of a safe bet that he's not going to play in the Chicago series. So it's going to be a big test, I think, for this Red Sox team, especially because he's been their engine offensively to see how can they still win baseball games when you don't have that big bat in the lineup. And I think if they can kind of pass that test, because it's still up in the air on whether or not this team is actually going to be a contender or they're going to sell. So I feel like a series like that where you don't have your best offensive player in the lineup, I feel like it's going to be a big test to them to kind of prove to the organization like if they should actually go all in and try to buy, or if they should go ahead and kind of sell assets, bring back prospects in return, and try to rebuild for 2027.
So I have a little fun side note with Wilson, why he kind of holds a special place in my heart. He debuted on June 7th. Well, he was called up June 17th of 16. He debuted on my birthday, and I was at that game. It was the
Oh,
Cubs Pirates.
and I know
Yeah,
exactly what happens in this
Cubs
game.
Pirates series hits a 2 run home run right in front of me. And again, not even like if you remove the Cubs element of it, it's even still so cool just to watch a player at his debut just launch that ball. Really fun. I have the baseball card somewhere. My husband tends to get me like the top snail cards for like really significant events in baseball or just things I've enjoyed, and I have that card somewhere of his first at bat with the home run. So uh, I love him for that. That was fun.
No, no, that was awesome. And then fun fact for you on top, I think you might know this, but kind of like on top of that, if it was a first pitch homer for his first big league hit, and I think at the time he was the 30th player
Yes.
in Major League history to be able to accomplish that feat.
Yeah, really neat. Happened on my birthday. I was really excited for him.
Yeah,
Um,
what a I mean, doesn't you don't get much of a better birthday present than that, I would say.
I mean, yeah, and because Andrew McCutchen was also playing in that game, and Andrew McCutchen is my all-time favorite, like regular player. Him and Tim Lincecum, my all-time favorite pitcher. But
Oh my
so yeah,
goodness.
I
Yeah.
was there for Kutch, but
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's somewhere in my house. I still have like an Andrew McCutchen jersey when I was probably 11, 12 years old that I used to wear to middle school all the time. He was the absolute man back in the day. And happy to see him still have another shot. I think he recently just signed a minor league deal
minor
with
league
the
with the
Atlanta Braves,
Braves.
if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I'm gonna go see maybe in Toledo, maybe in Indianapolis. I don't know yet, but we're going to see him because
That's
I
awesome.
have seen him every single season, with the exception of obviously 2020 and the season he was injured. Which reminds me, I've got the Uncle Larry
Oh, that's
Phillies
awesome.
bobblehead. For those not
Oh my
watching, it
God.
is the infamous Uncle Larry Andrew McCutchen
Oh
moment
man,
on the
the Phillies
Phillies.
got to the Phillies got to bring back those jerseys. Like I love
I
the
love
zip
them.
up. Like I thought it was one of the coolest jerseys I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yes, good times. So yeah, so back to the Red Sox now. What do they need to do at the trade deadline? Because we're, again, early July, trade deadline is looming. It's about a month away. So what do they need to do to kind of be successful for the rest of the year or just to even build themselves for next year?
Well, it's kind of an interesting situation because it's not really clear at this point on if the Red Sox are actually going to be a buyer or if they're actually going to be a seller.
Mhm.
They're at 48 to 48 record where so if you look at that, you would think that's well out of the playoff race. You should sell. But the thing is, with the American League, it's the weakest it's been in quite some time. So plenty of teams are well under 500, but yet still have a fighting chance for the playoffs. And I believe the Red Sox are still only just 4 games out of a wild card spot, despite that record. So I think what has to be kind of considered is I think just kind of how they play this next week, I would say is probably going to be the most crucial, especially with obviously the White Sox series. Then they have the Mets after that. But then following the All Star break, you have that you're playing three AL East opponents in the Rays, the Orioles, and the Blue Jays. So I would say especially this week, maybe the next 2 to 3 weeks are going to be so pivotal of what direction this team is going to take. And I think the direction will be clear. And I think if you look at it both ways, if they are going to buy, I think without question, another bat. 1 to 2 right-handed bats are very much needed for the order. They only have three above average hitters in their lineup in Willson Contreras, Cedar Rafaela, and Willie Abreu. Caleb Durbin has been on a tear as of late as well. Jaron Duran has shown glimpses of kind of being the player that he once was, but overall, they kind of need 1 to 2 consistent right-handed bats, I would say, to have a shot of trying to make a late season push and try to squeak into the playoffs come the end of the season. But if they do decide to go the selling route, which ultimately I think is the inevitable for this team, I think they have quite a few assets that they can sell off to contenders. I mean, right at the top, they probably have the best reliever that could be available on the market in Aroldis Chapman. Some people think that he could get upwards of one top 100 prospect and an additional prospect on top of that. Sonny Gray, he does have the hefty price tag, but again, he's been one of the best starting pitchers in the American League. Some are considering him to be one of the biggest snubs for the All Star game. Another one,
Yeah.
Willson Contreras. Yeah, another one, Willson Contreras as well. That one, I don't know if he does get traded with the team control left, but if they do make him available, I mean, that also could be very well the most coveted bat available at the deadline to acquire. So, and of course, they have Jared Duran as well, who's been thrown around in trade rumors. Masataka Yoshida is another player as well. Tayron Guerrero, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, both scheduled to be free agents at the end of the year. So they do have quite a lot of tradable players. So if they want to go the selling action, and if they do that, I would not, I'd be okay with that for the sole reason that they already have 3 to 4 top 100 prospects, depending on which rankings you go off of. But they could add to that and kind of reestablish themselves as one of the better farm systems in all of baseball by trading these guys away. Or at the same time, they could also answer kind of the long-term questions because we do know going into the offseason we're going to need offense. There's no question about that. And they could maybe kind of saw, especially with the strike looming and there potentially being little to no offseason, they can kind of take care of the long term solutions now. And maybe they trade for a bat at the deadline with controls. So that way, going into 2027, or maybe even further than that, they have controllable bats and kind of answer their questions. Maybe not for this season. Maybe they don't do it for this year, but they acquire the player so that way they could be part of the long run for when they are trying to contend again.
So with that, and again, you mentioned they're only, I think, about four out of the wild card spot. Do you feel confident that they can kind of push back? Because again, the Yankees notoriously terrible in July. Um, I feel like there's no real stopping the Rays, but do you feel like they can kind of push forward and at least make it to postseason?
It's kind of hard to say because they definitely show glimpses of they can be a playoff team. They've had stretches of games. I look at the series against the 4 game sweep against the Yankees. They
Hmm.
had elite starting pitching all 4 games. They had timely hitting through all 4 games. Like they've shown, and they played elite defense in the process. So they've shown glimpses of being a playoff team. I think the one question I have of whether or not they could actually do it is can they do it over a long stretch? They've been pretty successful in their last 11 games, 8-3 in that span, but can they continue that? Because I think at the time there's still 8 games under 500. There's still quite a lot of work to do to kind of get where they want to be. I think if they could actually prove that they can actually play consistent baseball and winning baseball for a long period of stretch. I think they could absolutely make a run for this playoff team. But that's the thing. They just recently had a 5 game win streak. But before that, their highest was, I think they had 3 game win streaks before that. And that was their season high. So I think that's kind of like the pivotal point of can they actually show they can be consistent? And if they can, I absolutely believe this team is very much a playoff team. But if they continue kind of playing the way we saw through April, May, and June, and I don't know if that'd be the case.
Hmm. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and kind of break down what this series might look like. We'll be right back. Welcome back. All right, let's get into this series. I like to first start with pitching matchups. We'll just kind of let me run through these really quick. We've got Noah Schultz and Peyton Tolley. We've got Davis Martin and Jake Bennett, and then we've got Anthony Kay and Sonny Gray. Although I did just see that Sandoval might be back, so I don't know. Again, this was just what baseball prospectus said. But what can you tell me about what we can expect from this Red Sox pitching in this series?
Yeah, so I think kind of started from the top with Peyton Tolley. I mean, this is a guy who's at one point a top anywhere from a top 20 to top 10 prospect in all of baseball, depending on what you used for your guideline. This is a guy who at one point was ranked having the best fastball in all of the minor leagues, and he's definitely shown that on display. The fastball is elite. It can touch upwards of 100 miles an hour. It can at times sit at not anywhere from 96 to 97 miles an hour. And the big thing that has totally improved on this year is his off-speed pitching. He actually has go-to off-speed pitches that 2 strike counts that he can go to whenever he needs to kind of throw batters off. And it's just worked very well for him. And he had a rough, his last outing was very rough against the Washington Nationals, probably the worst start of his career. He let up 7 hits and 3 walks for 6 earned runs. But that being said, before that, I mean, he was as consistent as you could possibly get in this rotation for mostly. Before that, his season high in earned runs was 4, and that was only done one time. Most of the time, he's usually a 3 runs or less kind of guy. Like he's just very, very consistent. And if the fastball is working, if the velocity is up there, I expect a really good outing from him. But that's the thing. That's kind of been the one concern I would say is that there have been starts where the velocity kind of fluctuates a little bit, and I've seen it get as low as 92 miles an hour and we just saw it on full display in the national series. So I think that's kind of the big thing with him is can are we gonna see the Peyton Tolley where the velocity is up? And if it is, I would expect a great outing from him. But if you kind of see that first or second inning where the fastball is kind of sitting in the low to mid 90s, I would say he's going to be in trouble at that point. So it'll be very interesting to see that. Following him, you have Jake Bennett. Really, really surprising guy. Got him over the offseason in a 1-for-1 prospect swap for Luis Perales. And he's been great. He's really been great. I definitely, in my opinion, I think the one of, if not the biggest surprise of the Red Sox season thus far. He's only pitched in 7 games, but the numbers have been certainly promising. 3-3 record, a 3.10 ERA, 31 strikeouts against 40.2 innings. And despite the lack of strikeouts, this was a guy who consistently gets double-digit whiffs in each of his starts. I believe he had 12, I think he had 12 or more in his last two starts, if I'm not mistaken. So he might not be able to get the strikeouts, but he certainly will get swing and misses to get the count lower to 1 and 0-1, 0-2, 1 and 2, 2 and 2, different situations like that. He'll get a swing and miss when needed. And generally with his extension too, he's usually able to get it over the plate faster. Usually creates a lot of weak contact as a result of that. So while he doesn't get his strikeouts, he'll get the swing and miss when he needs to, and he's able to generate quite a lot of weak contact as a result. So I'm very much looking forward to him because he's looked very good in his last two starts. Gave up one earned run. Against the Yankees, and then in his previous start before that, gave up only 2 runs over 7 2/3 innings. And then in his start against Colorado before those two, he threw 6 scoreless innings. So he's really been on a tear as of late. When he got optioned to AAA, the biggest thing for him was he kind of improved on the curveball. That was something he was tinkering with before getting called up the first time, got sent back down, got a chance to use it in a couple starts. And then when he got recalled, he's been using it in game ever since. And I feel like that's kind of been his money pitch for sure. So very much looking forward to that and seeing if he can continue this wave of momentum. And then lastly, still kind of up in the air for who it is. I know you mentioned Sonny Gray, and then I do know that I think at some point Patrick Sandoval is going to pitch. I don't know if that's as a starter or as a reliever. He did throw, I want to say it's as a starter, just so that way they could push everyone back, but I could be wrong. But nonetheless, I think that Patrick Sandoval he's looked pretty promising in his rehab stints, through 68 pitches in his latest outing, and then across 18 and a third innings in rehab work, he had a 1.96 ERA. The fastball's kind of sitting in the mid 90s. I think it topped out at 94 miles an hour in his last start. So just really intrigued to kind of see that. And I think the big thing with him is he wants to have a good starter too, because again, this could also very well be a name that teams might want to acquire at the deadline. They've already had scouts going to his rehab assignments, rehab games to kind of just see what he has. And so this next starter too could be very important for him, especially if the Red Sox decide to sell. And if they do, maybe he could be a piece that gets moved to a contender, whether it's a back of the rotation starter or a long reliever type role. I could totally see him working in either of those two positions, but it'll be very interesting to see. They did sign him 2 off seasons ago, missed all of last year, recovering from Tommy John surgery. So it definitely has not been the tenure that I think fans or even for the front office expected him to. So it'll definitely be really interesting to see. It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Lucas Giolito made his similar situation. I know as a White Sox fan, you can
Yep.
appreciate that. But but missed all of 2024. He came back in 2025 and had a very surprising season. It was himself, Brian Bayo, and Crochet were kind of the three-headed monster that carried the team down the stretch on the pitching side of things. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe that very well could be Patrick Sandoval as well. I mean, we've seen this before where the Red Sox will go to do 2-year contracts, let the first year, if it's a Tommy John guy, let them rehab over the course of the season. And then in the second year, let them build back up and be a key contributor down the stretch. So I'm very interesting to see that. And hopefully it should be a good series. But I have a good, I have a feeling that you guys are probably going to win this series with how our luck has been going.
Yeah, well, so I was on the Pesky podcast last night. I joined those guys and they were like, "Well, what are you thinking?" And I was like, "We're probably going to take two of one. The only one I am concerned about is just how Noah Schultz will perform. Because he's touch or go and he's been injured, and I think he's still kind of working through an injury, if I'm being honest. But I was like, you guys see Davis Martin, who is lights out at home. Like he's good in general, but at home, he is like another beast. And then I was like, and Anthony K's been really reliable for us. So I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I think we're gonna take two. And again, this is without Munetaka Murakami, which is kind of crazy, which as we're recording this, well, on Tuesday, so Tuesday, July 7th, he is going to make his debut at Charlotte in his rehab stint. And I was looking at their schedule because I was like, I wonder if he'll actually be up by then. I don't think he will, but I was looking at the night schedule earlier and they have Thursday, and NASCAR night on Thursday. And I was like, poor Murakami is going to deal with some drunk NASCAR fan. That's going to be like his true American culture. A Thursday in
Oh,
July dealing with Thirsty
I did,
Thursday and NASCAR night.
oh my, I didn't even think about that to be
And
honest. Oh my
and the next
goodness.
night is Grateful Dead night. So he
Oh,
gets I don't tomorrow well, Tuesdays is normal, but he gets Bark in the Park, Thirsty Thursday NASCAR, and then Grateful Dead. So
I wonder because like I don't think he's ever played in baseball games where there have been like promotions like that. So I mean, but I'm sure it'll be a really cool experience for him, no doubt.
yeah, I think he's seen a Bark in the Park. I mean, he's still been in Chicago. Like he's been traveling with the team during his injury. So like I know he's been there for at least Bark in the Park night because they had that one fairly recently. But yeah, I was just looking at those promos and I was like, that's he's gonna get a real taste of American culture down in Charlotte. Brutal. So, no offense if you like, I have a family. All the men in my family love NASCAR, and all the women in my family love baseball. So, it's the perfect marriage, and we should all go down
Yeah,
to Charlotte.
yeah. I do have a friend that is a NASCAR spotter, so I don't really follow it too much, but I basically support him because he's my friend. But yeah, I could not tell you a lick about NASCAR.
Now, although it's funny, I have a Dale Earnhardt tattoo.
Oh,
Just
really?
because as kids, we loved Dale Earnhardt. Because again, all the guys in my family watched it.
I
So,
mean,
as a
listen,
joke,
I do know that name, and I do know he is a legend.
yeah.
So,
As a joke, my cousins and I, we were all supposed to get this tattoo, and I'm the only person so far that has made it permanent. So they're not listening, but looking at you guys. Anyway, moving away from that, the biggest threat to this White Sox team, who on this Red Sox team could be that big threat?
ooh, well, on the Red Sox, ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I would say Willson Contreras, but
But we
he
might
might
not
be
see it.
out.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, if I had to name someone, and it's somebody who I think I mentioned him earlier in the episode, but it's someone who has very much surprised me. It's probably Caleb Durbin, to be honest with you. I mean, he's probably swung the hottest bat on the Red Sox probably since June, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, put together in the month of June in 86 plate appearance, 86 at bats. He batted 326, 359 on base percentage with a 605 slugging, had six doubles, six home runs, 13 RBIs. I mean, he's just been swinging a hot bat ever since he kind of was very vocal about going to a different hitting instructor outside the organization where they made some tweaks to his load, made some tweaks to his swing. But man, I think they definitely have unlocked something because we're looking at a much different hitter in June than we did in May and April. So whatever is working is working. And I think for me, that's probably, in my opinion, I would say probably the biggest threat we have going into the series if Wilson Contreras is not playing. Uh, has had a little bit of a slow start to July, only has one hit in the month, although it is a home run. So, but I would say probably based on this month of June and how successful he's been ever since he's made the mechanical adjustments to his load and his swing, I'd probably have to say Caleb Durbin has to be the biggest threat if for White Sox pitching going into the season or into the series.
So my next question is kind of a two for one because usually when you answer either the first or second one, you're it's your answer for the next question. So it's always what are the keys for the Red Sox to take this series, but then what are your fears heading into this series?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say Well, I will say, I think that I definitely liked what I saw in this last series against the Angels, in which they did sweep them. Now, granted, it is the Los Angeles Angels, and they haven't had a good year, but this is what the good teams are supposed to do. The good
Yeah.
teams are supposed to win the series or sweep the opponents that are not as good as them, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, they had timely hitting. They flashed the long ball a few times. Willson Contreras, Jared Duran, Caleb Durbin, guys who have been able to really do that, and they did so while also having some very quality starts along the way. Unfortunately, Ranger Suarez didn't have the best stuff, and then on top of that, did get hurt. But again, I look at Jake Bennett, gave up 2 runs over 7 and 2/3 innings in the opener for that series, and then in addition to that as well, I believe that was yep, Sonny Gray, who picked up his American League leading 10th win, 1 run over 6 innings. So really, it's just what would make me really optimistic about this series is actually, and I spoke on it earlier, it's just can they keep up the momentum? They've just won 3 games in a row. It's the third time this season or fourth time in the season that they've been able to match that mark. So now it's kind of just a question of can they do it again? And you'd have to feel really good, especially with the White Sox leading the Central. If you're able to win a series or sweep against a team like that, you have to feel really good about your chances. You're climbing closer to 500, and you have to feel really good about what you have because if you're able to do that to a team is an American League contender, then it kind of shows that maybe, hey, maybe this team is for real and they can continue riding this momentum going into the All Star break, which they need every win they can get at this point, which so would be very vital. But at the same time, I think what kind of fears, yeah, at the same time, it's are we just going to revert back to our old ways? Because we've had plenty of stretches where we swept the Detroit Tigers and we swept the Kansas City Royals, and we thought those were the series that kind of like would build the momentum for the rest of the season going forward. They would build off that and finally get things going. But then after that, they would lose 5 or 6 games in a row or something absurd like that. So really, it's just a matter of this series is kind of another test for can this team actually build off momentum, or is it going to be one of those things where people start to get their hopes up a little bit, only for it to see it all crashing down?
And I brought this up last night. Obviously, the White Sox are at home this series. They are 28 and 14 at home. They are weirdly incredible at home. I mean, they've had a tough time on the road. It's getting a little better, but yeah, 28 and 14 at home. They are really hard to beat there. And the vibes at Sox Park recently have just been really great. And you've got like the silliness. And this is kind of what I joke, like they're winning with the power of friendship and Harry Potter wand. Like
We,
that's,
yeah, we said the same. We said the same thing last year about our team. Like they had the big three. You had Alex Bregman leading the charts. Like we were saying the same thing about just like this is the power of friendship, and
yeah.
you've seen them do like all the dances in the dugout and like everyone rallying behind them. So I totally get that. I think for us it was kind of just it was a bad plane flight to Minnesota, but for you guys it's the Harry Potter stick.
Yeah, it's something. It's been why I mean, I've been to several games so far this season and it just feels electric. Like it's one of those things where it feels really different this season. And I think maybe it's just we were down bad for so long. Obviously, 2024, like we don't even want to talk about it anymore. And now they're finally like doing something fun and they have fun players and you're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." So like it's electric and the White Sox talk about that. Like the players have said like that makes a huge difference when all these fans are here and they're supporting us and like they're excited. And then you have Mike Basil in the dugout waving this wand and like casting pretend spells to get home runs. So yeah, you gotta fear witchcraft, I guess, when you're in Chicago.
I love that. I mean, I can't really speak on that because the Red Sox do not play well at Fenway Park. I think at the time of recording this, I think it was 17 and 27 at home. So, which is crazy because usually, and it's been because Fenway Park has always been an advantage for any Red Sox team, just because you have the weird dimensions. Usually they were an offensive first team, so usually that would always bode well in Boston's favor. But yeah, this year it feels like playing at home is kind of more of a death wish than anything. I think they've only won, if I could think, I think like 4 or 5 series at home the entire year so far. So definitely not having the same magic. And that's why I feel a little hopeful going into this series. I just still think you guys are going to win, but at the end of the day, for some reason, the Red Sox tend to play a lot better on the road than they do at home. And so if there's any sort of reason of outside of what they just did in the Angel series, if there's any sort of reason why fans should believe there's a fighting chance to win this series, it's because of the fact that they somehow do quite a lot better playing on the road than they do at home.
I had to look it up because I was curious now. I went to Fenway in 2022 to see the laundry series, as I call it, and the White Sox did win 3-1 on May 7th of 2022. That was my Mother's Day gift to myself, was one, not
Oh,
being
that's
off
awesome.
Fenway Park, and two, I guess, watching them win. So,
Hey, that doesn't get much better than that. You got to go to a historic ballpark. You got to see your favorite team win. I mean, it does not get much better than that.
it was good. It was a good time. So, moving away from our teams, this is where I like to just get, your hot takes or what you're noticing, loving, hating, whatever, with just baseball in general this season.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, you might not like this answer being a White Sox fan, but
Okay.
I think it's got to be, for me, the thing I'm paying the most attention to is probably Pete Crow Armstrong, to be honest with you. I think by far he is my favorite player to watch. That's not on the Red Sox. And this month that June he had, I mean, that was
Hmm.
one of the best months I've ever seen from a major league player of all time. And I've seen seasons where David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, and even on other teams too, like you look at Barry Bonds and just seasons like players like that who just put up monster months. And to see Pete Crow Armstrong, Shohei Ohtani is another one, but to see a player like Pete Crow Armstrong kind of get his, because a lot of people are skeptical of, is he a superstar? Is he a pretender? Like, what is he actually? And to see him finally get his flowers of being a superstar in this game and people finally recognizing him for it, because I've been a fan of his ever since he was in the minor leagues. So to see him finally get his due is really, really awesome to see. So for me, that's probably what I've been paying the most attention to. But I think some other things that are really exciting, and I think this year, especially with when it comes to the award runs. Like the last few years, you knew it was going to be Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani for MVP. It was going to be Terry Skubal and Paul Skeens for Cy Young. But this year, it's different. Like I would say maybe Shohei has the NL MVP on lock, but other than that, like there's a race for every other like major award out there. I mean, you start with the AL MVP. I mean, Jordan Alvarez, Bobby Witt Jr., guys like that, or Nick Kurtz, guys like that who are finally getting their fair share because Aaron Judge is hurt. He's not going to win it this year, and so you're seeing other guys finally get the spotlight they deserve. Same thing with the AL Cy Young race. I think Cam Schlittler has finally kind of put himself, even as a Red Sox fan, I got to tip my cap, but he's really kind of put himself out there as one of the best pitchers in baseball. And then, especially on the NL side of things, I mean, there's 5 or 6 guys. Jacob Mizunowski,
Yeah, Miz is kind of up there.
Miz is definitely up there, but I mean, Christopher Sanchez, Otani, Chris Sale, like there are plenty of guys, Logan Webb, like there are guys, they might not win it, but they certainly are putting together pretty strong arguments on why they should be in consideration for it. So I think for me, like I think the big thing about baseball this year is like, especially there's not really clear cut guys that are dominating this year. It was always Judge and Otani's league and then everybody else. But this year, I feel like you're finally starting to see like plenty of superstar players get the recognition that they deserve. And I think that's just a really exciting thing for growing the game and just getting like the next wave of superstar talent out there for all fans to enjoy. And then I'm trying to think. I don't really, it's tough. I don't really think I have any like crazy hot takes or anything like that. Like, I think just the biggest thing for me is just like, I just love seeing that it's not, and don't get me wrong, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge are great, great players, and we're very lucky to have them in our league. But it is very nice, that said, to be able to see other guys kind of get the recognition that they deserve. And I think in comparison to kind of previous seasons, like I feel like that's kind of a standout point that I'm noticing a lot more compared to recent seasons.
Yeah, as someone who loathes both the Yankees and the Dodgers, it was always tough for only those two players to really be noticed. So I'm fully with you. Like I love when you see more human guys because I think that Shohei and Aaron Judge are robotic at times. I mean, obviously Shohei is much more like showing emotion, but like Aaron Judge just doesn't seem human most days. And Shohei, just the way he's able to maneuver both pitching and hitting just doesn't feel human. It feels like a cheat code. So to see guys, and as much as I can't stand PCA, his June was outstanding. Um, just to see these guys from teams that you don't necessarily even think about. I mean, again, we mentioned Miz. Nobody was paying attention to him. Nobody was paying attention to the Brewers. Nobody was paying attention to any of that until he kind of came on the scene and was just completely dominating everybody. So, and yeah, and even Cam to a certain extent, like that's kind of been crazy to see his development. So yeah, I'm fully with you. Like I want more guys to be noticed. I obviously I was so excited about Miguel Vargas because I was like, thank you for finally
Yeah,
like realizing that Miguel is good, that Colson
exactly. Like,
is good,
yeah,
that
exactly.
Jose
Like
is
that's
good.
that's another player right there. Like 20, he's already got 20 home runs before the All-Star break. Like that was a guy who 2 years ago, if you asked a fan, do you know who Miguel Vargas is? Chances are they're probably gonna say no. But now people know his name. And like that's what I mean about like you're not seeing the Judge and Otani headlines as much anymore. You're seeing guys like Miguel Vargas finally get their fair share because kind of the wealth is being able to be spread across all major league players. And it's like, if you have a good week or you have a good 2 week stretch, like people are going to know your name based on that alone, which I think is really cool to see.
Yeah, I love it. I never want players to be injured, but
No, no, of
that's
course not.
but you
Absolutely.
the way to grow the game is to highlight these lesser known players. Because to your point, I think, yeah, if you'd ask somebody about Miguel Vargas in 2024, they'd be like, what? Or they would point back to that meme. I mean, it turned like the picture of him turned into a meme of him just kind of like huddled up in the dugout, like looking very upset. I think it was
Mhm.
after the 121st loss, and he was visibly upset. And then to kind of start to develop a bit more last year and then to come out in 2026 and be this phenomenal player who is now an all-star um, is like just one of those feel-good stories that you want. The feel-good stories is what makes baseball relatable and fun and gets people to tune in. Because I feel like your average baseball fan, kind of your bandwagon fan, they don't tune in until after the All-Star game anyway. Us diehards, we don't have that opportunity. We're watching spring training and on, but I feel like that's what's so great about the All-Star game is again, you can see these players from other teams that you don't know, and you're like, oh, I'm going to follow this guy because he seems really cool. And he's a really good player, and I wouldn't have thought about him outside of my own little team bubble. So I love it. It goes back to how can you not be romantic about baseball?
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself, honestly.
Well, Owen, that's what I've got for you. Thank you so very much for coming on. This was so much fun to have you on. So grateful to Ed for the introduction, obviously. I'm so excited you guys are doing that podcast together. Will you just remind people again where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, I think I told you this before we started recording, but second ever time I've ever guest appeared on somebody else's podcast. So very, very grateful and very, very thankful for having you on. And hopefully I'm back on in the near future, no doubt. But for those who want to find me, you can find me at Obro Media, OWBRO Media on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you guys use.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck. This is going to be a really fun series. No matter what the outcome is, I think it'll be great. All
Absolutely. May the best team win.
all right. Thanks and bye.